Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split Pick Show for UFC 288, happening this Saturday night in Newark, New Jersey, headlined by New Jersey's own. New York or New Jersey? New York or New Jersey? Queens.
They keep saying tri-state area. I thought he was a Long Island guy.
Tri-state area's own Aljamain Sterling taking on the former bantamweight and flyweight champion and gold medalist Henry Cejudo, the Triple C, the man who never lost his belt, retired as champion. 3.5 years later, back to try and claim it. We were worried about this pay-per-view when we lost Charlie Olives versus Dariush, but thank the different gods, both God and Allah, for Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns stepping up at 170 pounds in a 5-round co-main event.
The important ones are the MMA gods. You have to pray to the MMA gods.
Well, whatever gods
They're the
made
ones
this,
that take our fights away.
we've got a cracking co-main event. Terrific decision for both of them as the winner establishes himself as the next title contender after Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Couple of other names could have slipped in there, so I like the fact that these guys are taking the chance, saving the card, and giving themselves an opportunity to put their destiny in their own hands. And you know what? Rest of the card's not bad as well. Evloev versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell has to try and take on another undefeated rising prospect. We've got the return of Kron Gracie, Charles Jourdain, Andrade, Frivola versus Drew Dober. How the fuck did that fight sneak me by until I was doing my research for the picks? And plenty more action. Guys, as always, like, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, comment, leave your own picks and predictions for the main card, the main event, the whole card if you want to. We want to hear from you guys. And with all of that out the way, Matt, of course, joined by producer Josh. Let's get into this. Main event.
Man.
Sterling, Cejudo. Both men feel confident. I've seen one interaction at the Fighter Hotel and Fight Week. Respectful, but both guys clearly feeling they've had a good camp, clearly feeling that they've got a style that's well suited to beat the other guy. What's your initial thoughts?
It'd be interesting to see this fight in their prime. I feel like so many of my thoughts are kind of predominated by how old Cejudo is now and how long he's been out. And is it a case that he's kind of well rested and he hasn't taken the same level of damage in training, or has he been training just as hard and he may as well have never retired? And if I seem a little subdued today, I'm really sorry. I'm feeling really unwell. You might have called that on the podcast this week. We're recording the same day.
His excitement level is at 10 though.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this card. I'm just absolutely dying in my chair here today. Cejudo Sterling. We have picked very similarly across this card today, but
Except
this is
for this fight.
this is the one difference maker. I've gone with Sterling. If I was going Sterling Cejudo in their prime, I would go with Cejudo and it would be close. I still think it's a close fight. I don't know how much Cejudo's speed would have dropped off between 33 and 36, and how much he'd be cognizant of the difference in speed if he's not sparring hard. If it's always like technical sparring, if it's like minimal sparring, probably with wrestling, that's kind of his bread and butter. He probably feels just as sharp, but once he's actually bouncing around on his feet, is he still going to be in the same spot that he is mentally with his instincts? Or is he going to be like an inch or two behind? Is he going to be a split second slower? Conventional wisdom says that guys at this weight class, speed-wise, do start to tail off pretty quickly after 32, 33. And it's very hard for them to stay competitive. Can you do that without taking high-level fights? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to come back super rusty or anything. I just think he's going to come back
A step off.
Yeah, and how quickly is he going to adjust to that? Has he already adjusted to that? Even if he thinks he has, is he a little off? It's just
There's
a few things going there. And we were talking before we started recording, I think Sterling has great back takes, and whether or not he's able to make use of the actual back position, he's going to be able to take the fight where he wants it, and from there he's very comfortable rolling into full mount and things. I think he's going to have opportunity to be very dangerous anytime Cejudo makes a small mistake or is a little slow. Again, Cejudo's a very dangerous guy. Is Sterling going to be that rash? I don't fucking know. It's going to be a fun fight though. This is what's really cool when you have like these big fucking unknowns. Obviously, your preference would be to see peak fighters fighting that have been staying busy all the time. But every now and again, you get a curveball like Triple C. I'll fucking take it.
I feel like Sterling's the easy pick, and I feel like he's the safe pick. He's active, he's the champion. There's no question that he's a far larger, more established 135-pound fighter. Most of Cejudo's career, I mean, just look at flyweight in the UFC, but like a lot of his, I think most of his wrestling career was at an even smaller weight class. So we're not talking about a guy that has the same kind of frame. When he won the bantamweight title, he won a vacant belt. He had beaten the previous champion, but at his own weight class of 125 pounds when he beat TJ Dillashaw. He didn't beat TJ at bantamweight. And he only defended that belt once against an aging Dominic Cruz. I think it's really reasonable to have questions and to have concerns as to how well established he can actually compete, particularly with the current crop of bantamweights, where everybody's a killer, everybody's well-rounded, and there's nobody that's really like, they're all kind of, I don't think there's that many weight bullies, but nobody you look at in that top 15 and think you're a small bantamweight, apart from maybe Pedro Munoz, who's still hanging around in the top 10. Merab, stacked, absolutely just thick as shit for 135, absolute tank. Sterling's a big guy, O'Malley's a big guy, like they're all bigger guys than Cejudo is now.
Sanhagen, Jan.
3 years out, 36 years old. All of these are factors that made me so sure I was going to pick Sterling. The reason I haven't in the end is that I have to give a level of respect to Cejudo, who never lost his belt in this division, never lost his belt once he won it at flyweight, has been out for 3 years, but, as described by Demetrius Johnson, is one of the most focused, hard-working, fight-intelligent, detail-focused trainers and competitors he's ever trained with. He says the guy's mind is just completely different. He has no ego when it comes to preparing for fights. Every fight has a different game plan. He quite often will take something that was effective against him in a previous fight and end up utilizing it in his next fight. Vis-a-vis taking the leg kicks from Marlon Moraes and then employing the leg kicks in his next fight against Dominic Cruz. The guy's mind, his determination, his self-discipline, I all think are good enough for me to look at the 3 years out and say, I believe that you can counteract that. He's still been so involved in the sport. He's been training with so many guys. He's helped coach so many guys and been integral into improvements in their performance. He's got a YouTube channel where he's watching every single fight card, breaking down all of the fights. Like, his mind has not left the division. I look at Sterling, and I think pound for pound, just looking at skill, I feel like Cejudo's, but I keep saying Cejudo, stupid. Cejudo is better than him everywhere, technique-wise. I think he's a more technical striker. I think he's a more intelligent striker. I think he's a far more technical wrestler. I would say the jiu-jitsu probably goes to Sterling, but I feel like prime Cejudo can negate that. Is it prime Cejudo? I don't know. But I'm backing the guy that after he beat Moraes, I said I wouldn't doubt again.
Yeah.
I feel like he's owed that. And what I would say is I don't think there's a huge danger factor in terms of striking power from Sterling, apart from maybe landing something like a flying knee or the right kind of kick. But he fights long and he can be funky on his feet, but I don't think he's going to finish him on the feet. I don't think he's going to finish Cejudo on the ground, certainly not early. And the advantage that Cejudo's got being smaller is that he's not cutting the same kind of weight that Sterling's cutting. And the way I think that Cejudo wins this fight is getting through an early difficult part and putting the pressure on and being fresh and being able to wear Sterling down at the point that that weight cut, that style that he's got, that body type he's got, starts letting him down. I'm not saying that Sterling's got bad cardio, but he's not the same fighter in round 5 as he is in round 1. whereas I feel Cejudo can be, and I feel that's going to be the difference maker. So unconfidently, against my better nature, and with a lot of factors that I can't predict going against me, I'm picking Cejudo.
Yeah, well, I think what the difference is you're betting on him still being who he was, and me thinking that there might be a bigger gap between who he is and who he was.
I think
that's what it boils down to.
I think there's going to be we have to accept there's going to be a drop off, but vis-a-vis John Jones, I think that the class and the quality, and the fact that he's not going to have somebody that can get him out of the fight in those early rounds where he might still need to get comfortable. I think that even him a step down, he's still going to have enough to get this done.
Fingers crossed. I'm picking Sterling though.
It's a good fight though.
That's the only difference we have this week.
It's a good fight though, man. And I don't mind who wins. I like both guys. I think both do wonders for their legacy if they manage to get the win. It sets up really fun fights. Maybe even either of them moving up to 145. So really good time looking at what's happening. You know, once Volk fights Yair, assuming Volk wins that, there's room for a new potential contender coming through. So,
but you might have to wait for Volk to go back up first.
You may, but I think either guy. I mean, come on.
I see what you're saying though. It's,
Cejudo's just been waiting 3.5 years. I don't think waiting is his issue.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. I mean, if Sterling's able to defend the belt a couple more times, that one's definitely on the cards.
He's got a case of being an all-time great if he wins this fight, Sterling.
Yeah.
Because you look at his resume, you'd have Cejudo, TJ Dillashaw, Jan Twice, technically, Corey Sandhagen, and then obviously all the guys he beat on the run-up before that to the belt. You know, and of course a couple of losses, but still fighting the best of the best when he was
very young and fresh in the UFC. Caraway was decent at the time. Who else was it? Sun Tzu,
Jimmy Rivera, Pedro
Rice
Munoz.
Was just got caught.
Chris Holdsworth beat him.
Shit, well, Holdsworth was good back in the day.
Holdsworth was good back in the day.
Yeah.
Sterling's for everybody. Cejudo's already an all-time great, but if he wins the belt back and then manages to try and at least even just go for the shot at 145 for the belt, he's right up in that all-time great status. So
as an all-time great, not as an all-time bantamweight.
No.
I think 3 fights doesn't cut it, but
well, that's the price you pay when you spread your career across different weight classes. Is the thing gets looked at as an entirety rather than the work that you did in just one specific category. That's the game you play.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk co-main event. It's at £170. That's significant. It's 5 rounds. That could also be significant. We're about a month after Gilbert Burns fought what was his second fight of the year already. And Bilal Muhammad, coming off of Ramadan, having not fought since October, definitely not having had anything close to a full camp or being in the same kind of preparation, and being the guy that was begging for this to be at £185 and had to relent to 170. How much does all of those factors change what you think the end result, or confirm what you think the end result's going to be, compared to if this was just a fight that got booked 3 months in advance?
Look, if this was a 5-round fight or a 3-round fight that'd been booked months in advance, I'd still pick Burns. Just not have any disrespect to Muhammad. I'm a huge Bilal fan, always have been. It's just stylistically, and I know we said the same thing with fucking Sean Brady, but honestly with Durinho, like stylistically, like it's just such a bad fight for. I know we talked like a lot on the previous episode about the benefits of being a well-rounded fighter, but for Muhammad, it's just going to kind of suck because Durinho's got a lot of power on the stand-up. It's going to be tough to go 5 rounds, never mind being kind of drained from not having the training camp, having it be short notice, having it be 5 rounds, and coming off of Ramadan. It's going to be a bit of a miserable time. But even if he was fucking fresh, I just feel like it would be a tough ask to try and beat him up on the feet, to kind of stay in his chest up against the cage for long enough to win like enough rounds to get the fucking nod. You're not going to beat him on the ground. You're not going to want to fuck around with him on the ground. It's just gone. Sorry.
No, all I was going to say is I think the main difference between somebody like Gilbert Burns and Sean Brady is, Sean Brady was a very scary prospect in terms of the wrestling that he brought. but he wasn't a dangerous fighter in the way that Gilbert Burns
He was
is.
going to take you down, keep you down.
And
That's-
and really, I think what Bilal was able to show in that fight is you're a version of me that hasn't gone through what I've gone through and picked up the skills in certain areas that I've now picked up. So he was able to kind of, once it was a situation where Brady couldn't take the fight to the ground, and once that happened, Bilal was able to piece him up. The danger we've got with Gilbert Burns is, I think, honestly, if Bilal wanted to, he probably is going to be able and probably will take down Burns a couple of times. The problem he's going to have is that Gilbert Burns on the bottom is like a fucking cockroach you put on its back, man. It's just constant fucking movement, arms being thrown up. You're in constant danger. When he's on top of you, he's even more dangerous. But what he can do when he's on top of you is like the Masvidal fight, the Wonderboy fight. He'll give you a situation where he'll go, okay, you can stay where you are right now, and I'm not going to submit you. But you will spend the next 4 minutes here. And it's not because I've got some insane top pressure. It's because you realise that I'm not giving you any position you can move out of without putting yourself at severe submission risk. Bilal doesn't have that, man, when he's on top. There's not the danger there. And there's not the danger that there is on the feet. There's no safe space for Bilal. He takes the fight to the ground. He's in danger. He gets taken down. He can get back up. But he's going to make the wrestler's mistake of having to give the back up or give something up that Gilbert Burns is going to be able to snatch. If the fight stays standing, I'm not saying Bilal can't land, but when Gilbert Burns lands, it's different.
Yeah, no, he's got the power, and he's also not punch shy. He'll stay in the pocket, and he'll. If you're not really crafty with your stand up, he's going to get opportunities to crack you. It's just inevitable.
He is a little chinny. That's the only thing I'll say. But he's showed in the Masvidal fight, he's getting a lot better at not getting hit. He's keeping his head off the centre line. He's setting shots up better. He's not just winging big overhands and diving in. He's showing an improvement there.
Well, that's something else I was going to bring up, because what we've seen of him of late is a little bit more of a, look, I'm not going to fuck around. I just need to get some wins together so I can go touch some gold. You know, he's just taking people down, like you say, just forcing them to pick their poison and just taking easy decisions or, taking inevitable submissions.
Yeah.
He's not taking a lot of damage. He's gone full blind Damian Maia at his peak. It would be weird. It would be interesting to see how conservative he kind of is with his approach. And again, I think with 5 rounds looming, that's only going to be worse for Bilal because, the further the fight gets going, if he's able to stay busy, and it's literally going to be dirty boxing with his chest in Durinho's, his head in Durinho's chest up against the cage. And even then, it's like you're going to have to sacrifice one underhook for it. That's kind of dangerous being that close quarters with Durinho. So
also, Bilal's whole thing is that he's about the grind. Now, I do think that Gilbert Burns can get tired. I think we've seen that. But I don't think that Bilal's going to be in the condition that he needs to put a heavy 5-round pace on. So if he, I think they'll both end up having to take breaks and the pace will be a bit slower.
Bilal has to go a little... If he hasn't got immediate success in closing the distance, he has to go a little slower and be more patient, because it's not, like we say, like if he's not patient enough on the feet and setting things up with his hands, he's going to get cracked. And if he rushes in or he's sloppy with anything, it's not even just going to be getting taken down, it's going to be having a neck snatched or something like that. So, I'm picking Durinho. I feel bad for Bilal. I hope he proves us wrong. But like I said, we picked Brady in that Brady fight. We were like, Styles win fights. I just don't think Bilal's going to be able to stay on his feet. And I know that, I really don't think we're going to be wrong on this one. I'm just saying, Bilal's caught us snoozing before.
Yeah.
Just trying to make the fight seem interesting.
Listen, we were wrong on him with Sean Brady, but I still feel that Bilal is a little step below what's very quickly emerging as those top 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah. And
I feel that Burns is in that top 4 or 5 category. I think Shavkat, Usman, Colby, they're all in there, and obviously Leon as well. I know the fight got stopped early and you can't read it after a round and a half, but Leon just looks different levels above Bilal.
Yeah.
And I don't think that if Leon fights Gilbert, I think Leon would win. I back my boy, but I don't think it would look like he's levels above Gilbert Burns in that fight. I really don't. And so I just feel like Gilbert's going to show his class here.
Oh, that's fair.
We're identical for the rest of the card, by the way. It's Sterling was the only difference. And so all one of us can just say what the pick is, and we don't need to both say it, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, feature fight. Jessica Andrade. She's back at strawweight, which makes me happy. Taking on Yan Xiaonan. What's your thoughts?
Good fight. I don't know how long it's going to go. I think Andrade could probably put this one away early. She's got too much power. She's not going to get Blanchfield in this one. It's just
she'll only have that happen to her at flyweight. Blanchfield was just a case of short notice, not properly prepared, combined with this girl's big for the division and physical when she gets you down.
And a bit of a phenom, so...
A bit of a phenom. Andrade, I think, should just stay at strawweight. I think that's her best chance for a title. I think it's the division she can be competitive in a title for. There's loads of fights that I'd really like to see her win. I think she beats Yan Xiaonan. The only thing I will say with Yan is she's very, very technical, and she showed in the Marina Rodriguez fight, which she didn't get the nod on, but she probably should have been given the decision in that. And she showed this against Mackenzie Dunn. Light on her feet, good movement, doesn't stay in one place. I don't think she's going to be an easy target for Andrade. And Andrade can kind of get picked apart if you look at like the Joanna fight or, you know, the moments of success, you know, in the fight, the second fight against Rose.
Right, yeah.
If you move around and just try and pick her apart and not land anything too hard and keep it quick and easy, pop, move.
I think Yan's good, but I've got her a little below.
I'm not saying she...
Well, I guess Joanna and Rose kind of tired. I guess Joanna at peak kind of seemed a little bit more on the feet, but... And then, you know, girls like Yan a little lower.
I'm not saying she's in the class, but I think she can present some of those same problems.
So it's a bit... Just trying to make the fight sound interesting as well. So this is kind of competitive. I just think Andrade's power is going to be too much of an issue early on in the fight.
That's the decider for me. I think this could be over within a minute and a half, potentially. That's the problem with Andrade. Until women get hit with her, they don't quite understand what it's like to get hit by somebody that's that fucking powerful.
Yeah, I mean, unless you were recently run over and you could remember it. Even then, decent sized car. Talking hatchback.
Absolutely. Both picking Andrade. Next up, Bryce Mitchell. He was meant to be fighting Jonathan Pierce, JSP. That would have been a really good bounce back fight for him after a tough loss against Ilia Topuria. Instead, he's got the second scariest undefeated featherweight prospect in Movsar Evloev.
You're brave going for like the both. Like I'm always like Evloev.
I thought it was an easy one, and I screwed it up, and I apologise.
No, you got there in the end.
I apologise. So it's not just the fact that I think Evloev is really well rounded and a really strong, powerful wrestler who can control people and is good at not taking risks. I don't like a lot of what I've heard from Bryce Mitchell since he lost to Ilia Topuria.
Yeah.
A lot of him saying he's been super depressed. Multiple points, considered retirement. And we see this sometimes from guys that are kind of like, I know he technically had one loss on his record, but have these streaks.
This is every
and feel
fighter
invincible.
After a loss. Every fighter feels that way. It's just whether or not they talk about it. I'm willing to give him a pass on that.
It makes me nervous though, particularly when you have a guy that's, you know, he's for most of his career, apart from one defeat on Tough, he's not really had to experience the negative sides of MMA. He's always found a way to win.
Yeah.
And when that gets taken away from you in the way that it does against a guy like Ilia Topuria, where you're physically outdone, you're outstrengthed, you're outworked, you're outstruck, and then you're submitted in the one area that you think is your bread and butter, that you go into fights thinking this is what I do if the fight gets to this area. It's a really big confidence hit. And the worry I've got is I think he's going to feel exactly the same confidence hit happening straight afterwards because there's not enough danger from him on the feet. He's not physical enough, even though all the technique and talent is there. So yeah, I think we're both picking Evloev.
Yeah, I think Mitchell's either going to be getting pieced up on his feet or he's going to be on his back.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Opening the main card, Charles Air Jourdain is taking on the returning Crone Gracie. 3.5 years out since his loss to Cub Swanson
in
a barnstorming fight. that for some reason he thought he won, which was ridiculous. Guy that's coming in with a legendary name, Gracie family, huge levels of respect. Like in competitive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this is the guy. And against Alex Caceres in his debut back in 2019, we saw a taste of that. We saw how good and how effective that Jiu-Jitsu can be. Has this been 3.5 years out, though, where he's been relentlessly working on his boxing, rounding out his game to be a complete MMA fighter? Or has he just been doing some jiu-jitsu, helping the Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz boys when they've had their once in a blue moon fight and then thought, screw it, I'm still contracted, let's see if I can get a fight and get paid? That's a tough question to answer, but I'm going Jourdain because I'm already picking one guy on this bloody card that's been out for a few years and I'm unknown on. I'm not going to make it two. I'm sticking with the guy who's been active, and I like Charles Jourdain. And if this fight stays up, I think he wins on the feet. I think he wins comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, Kron's like a much better athlete than the average Gracie that gets into MMA. But it's been a long time. He's old now. He's got, like, he's such a specialist. He's going to have that one, like, real threat, the submission threats. But Charles Jourdain's just not the guy you want to be shaking your ring rust off in front of. You know, he's really fucking, even when he's losing, he looks like he's in form. Jourdain's just been piecing it together.
Only 27 years old. Coming
Jourdain,
off two losses.
Not Gracie.
Jourdain, yeah. Only coming off two losses, but it's Shane Burgos and Nathaniel Wood. Don't think there's any disrespect there. He has been subbed, though. Got subbed by Julian Erosa. If the fight does hit the ground, it's not going to be a fun place for Jourdain to be. But Kron Gracie's not really a wrestler, man. He's a pure jiu-jitsu guy. And I don't think he's going to have the takedowns he needs. But we don't know.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what he's done for 4 years. Maybe he comes out there and looks like the greatest version of a Diaz brother we've ever seen. I don't know.
I doubt it. We're both going Air Jourdain.
Correct. Okay, a bit quicker on the prelims, but we've got to talk about this headline in the prelims because Drew Dober is having a bit of a purple patch. He's liking his life right now. He's having fun. He's getting good wins, big wins, good knockouts, 3 knockout wins in a row. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Got a guy that could be knocked out, is going to engage and stand up a bit.
Yeah, but Matt Frivola,
And
like,
names rhyme.
There was a point in Matt Frivola where I thought, this guy's just going to be a fun guy in the UFC, but like he won't last for long.
Then he'll put a couple together.
Then
he'll go back to business as usual.
beats Otman Ozaitar. Who else does he beat?
The Potato Bandit.
Is the potato? Oh, of course, the fucking thing in the Abu Dhabi Fight Hotel. He beats Otman Ozaitar, Gennaro Valdez, both by knockouts in the first round, and you're like, okay. I don't think he's winning this fight because Drew Dober's a monster.
Yeah, I think Dober's got it.
More technical, more durable, and
More power.
heavier hands. And he's a dad now. That dad strength is coming through. It's a dangerous thing. Drew Dober all the way. The Great White Hope. Next up, Kennedy Nzechukwu taking on Devin Clark at light heavyweight. Devin Clark's got a lot of skills, man. He's got the wrestling to take this fight where he needs it to be. I just really like Kennedy. I like him as a person. I like him as a fighter.
Yeah.
Dangerous on the feet. Long, rangy. I think he wins.
The size difference is insane. I think it's like a 10-inch difference in reach. The only kind of question mark I have on this is that Clark knows how to make a boring fight work for him.
True.
And he'll stay busy. And Nzechukwu can be a little overly patient sometimes.
He employs the high guard a lot as well.
Yeah.
It does open you up for takedowns.
So I don't know if it might even be a case that he's down 2.5 rounds and then just pulls out the knockout or something. But I just can't pick against Kennedy in this one. It's just I have that one question mark where I'm like, sometimes you're like overly patient and Clark's going to be really fucking busy and in your face. It's not a great marriage there. So
The only thing I would say is Devin Clark usually loses a few and then he gets that one win that kind of keeps him alive.
yeah,
And his one win that keeps him alive, he got in his last fight.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're back on for losses.
I hope so. Last week was abysmal for me. I need a
Yeah.
good strong week.
I'm not sure on that. That's probably one of my least sure picks along with the main event on the card.
Fair enough.
But I'm still going Kennedy. Okay, next up, real unknown for me, Chaos Williams, who we know and love, taking on, let me bring this name up, Rolando Bedoya, with a 14-1 record and a 13-fight win streak. I looked up all of these fights in a promotion I haven't heard of, and all of his wins are against names that I've never heard of before. But he only lost his second fight and has won every fight since. That is a dangerous prospect, but Chaos Williams is a bad man with heavy hands that throws combos, that wants to hurt people and has an intensity to him. And I've seen him perform well against good fighters. So I've got to go Chaos.
Yeah, same, pretty much. I'd have a hard time picking against Chaos. And I don't know the new guy.
Yeah, easily done. New guy could shock us, though. Back to women's strawweight, Marina Rodriguez is taking on her Brazilian compatriot, Virna Jandiroba, who loses a lot of fights in the UFC, but only against really good people, and she's always a nightmare.
Yeah.
No one has an easy fight against her. Rodriguez, coming off the loss to Amanda Lemos, where she didn't look great. She complained about the stoppage, but she wasn't looking great in the fight. Got cracked a few times. Kind of maybe approached that fight with a bit of an arrogance. Thought she should have been fighting for the belt already. Kind of just took it as like a fine, I'll do this fight, I'll beat this person, and then I'm guaranteed a shot. And Lemos showed that she's pretty dangerous. I do feel Rodriguez has got enough to win this fight, though. She'll have to fight off some takedowns. It's going to be scrappy. It's going to be hard for her to show her best skills. But I do think that she's in that caliber of fighters that beats Jandiroba.
Yeah, Jandiroba is decent, though. I had this one kind of a little close, but yeah, I'm going Mahina as well.
It is a close fight, and Jandiroba could ugly this up and make it dirty and keep it on get it to the ground. But Rodriguez doesn't get finished on the ground. She hits hard. She's long, lanky, throws knees. I think she gets it done. Okay, we've got a 5-fight early prelims, so we're going to shoot through this.
Anyone but Parker Porter.
Braxton Smith taking on Parker Porter. I do not know Braxton Smith. I have not seen Braxton Smith, but his name is not Parker Porter.
No, anyone but Parker Porter, only to be superseded by anyone but Chase Sherman.
So
that
we're both picking
is the recipe.
Braxton Smith. Phil Hawes taking on Ikram Aliskerov. We've both picked Aliskerov.
Buying into the hype, soz Hawes.
Sorry, Hawes. And I think this fight's a bit soon after his last knockout. Rafael Estevam taking on Zalgas Zamagulov. It's hard not to pick Estevam, which is why I'm picking Estevam. Although I like Zamagulov, he's 34 years old. He's getting old for the division. And whether he likes it or not, the guy just doesn't have any luck in the UFC.
Well, I pick him, then he loses. So for the sake of his career, I'm going Estevam. When
He's
I realised how
undefeated.
tight we were this week, I was tempted to switch to that pick most of all. But I can't do Zumagulov dirty like that. If I pick him and he loses a split decision again, like, I'll just have to write him a fucking apology email or something. I don't know. I've got to make it right.
I just think
I'm going Esteban.
I just think he's one of those guys that's always going to get the splits not going in his favour. And what is he, 1-4 now in the UFC? I'm going Esteban.
Yeah.
And so are you. Middleweight, ugly man Joseph Holmes, worst ring name ever, taking on Claudio Ribeiro. Just don't think Holmes is that good, dude. And he hasn't got his coach James Krause to help him out anymore.
Ribeiro looked pretty good in the last fight. Who did he lose to? Shit. Don't feel well today.
Abdul Razak Al Hassan.
Yeah, I didn't think he looked that bad against Al Hassan. So
Al Hassan's a bit of a physical beast at middleweight.
Yeah, he's got some power there. So I'm going Ribeiro.
Smart pick. So am I. Well, smart pick. We're doing exactly the same.
Yeah.
And Daniel Santos taking on Johnny Munoz. We've both hit Daniel Santos because this guy is just so much fucking fun. He's the bantamweight Charles Oliveira. Gets hit, gets rocked, doesn't give a fuck, looks to finish fights. It's never dull. I'm just excited to see him kick off the card, man.
Yeah.
Right.
I made it.
That is the picks. Josh, you survived your flu, your hangover. You did 2 hours of recording, a podcast and a pick show. Like the video just to respect the effort this man's gone through. He was not feeling good, but we still did it. It's a great card. Leave your picks, predictions, let us know who you think wins this Saturday. And most importantly, enjoy the fights. Have a great week until then, guys. Take care.
Bye, Laurie.
Peace.
Bye, Dave.